Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Today I'm in the town of Bradford on Avon in Wiltshire. Just arrived, got off the train here actually. It's a wonderful little station. Do some photographs and show you some of that in a bit. We're going to head into the town. Lots of interest in the town, not least a Saxon church. I'm really looking forward to showing you that St Lawrence Church. It also has a huge tithe barn and canal content. It happens to sit on the Kennett and Avon Canal, so I hope to do some bits and pieces showing you the narrowboats on the canal too, as well as the river. Of course, it has a magnificent bridge over the River Avon. So why not join me here for another wander in Bradford on Avon in Wiltshire. So I'm currently standing on the Kiva Bridge, dedicated to Jazz Carlin, who won silver medal in the 2012 Olympics. I'm not sure who that was. I'll put that in below. So we're currently above the River Avon, of course, and that is looking down in the direction of Bath and Bristol. So you're probably thinking, this church here, Holy Trinity in Bradford on Avon, doesn't look very Saxon. I can be right, actually. The Saxon church is a bit further uphill. We'll have a look at that in a moment. Now you can see the Saxon church just to the right of the main church here in Bradford on Avon. And the other thing to note about Bradford on Avon, probably already picked it up from the brickwork of these churches, is that it's a Cotswold town. You might be surprised to think that because we're in Wiltshire after all, but Bradford on Avon is surrounded by the Cotswold Hills. So this is St Lawrence, Bradford on Avon's Saxon church, and you can certainly make that out from the arches above or just below the roof line there. So the Trinity Church is striking 12:15. Now, the 12th century historian William of Malmesbury reported that it was standing in the 1120s, but he thought it dated back to the time of St Aldhelm's in AD 709. A charter of King Ethelred granted Bradford to the ruins of Shaftesbury in 1001 AD, and the church's architecture suggests it was built for the ruins early in the 11th century. That's an absolutely magnificent building. Now these little alleyways remind me of my very first video I did for West Country Wanderings in the town of Dartmouth in South Devon. We had all those little steps. But it's a real town to explore, and take your time to explore, as there's much to see here. So I'm currently doing the climb up to a place called Torry, St Mary's Chapel. Not been there before. But on the way up, you're afforded these magnificent views right across the town. Wow, that view really is quite stunning. So I've not been to Bradford on Avon before, but not been up here looking down on the town. That's terrific. And that down there in the centre of the screen is a tithe barn at Barton Farm. We're going to be having a look at that shortly. So you can see everything from where I've walked so far. In the centre of the screen there is the railway station where I started. And then made our way across to the Church of England church, and the Saxon church is just tucked in beneath that. I think what was a former mill, it's now been converted into apartments, just tucked in there, and we've now made our way up under that. There is St Mary's Chapel. According to my notes, this is also known as the Pilgrim Chapel because it lies on the Pilgrim's Way between Glastonbury in Somerset and Malmesbury, also here in Wiltshire. Now, according to the notes behind me on the wall, it was built in the late 15th century and it was restored around 1876, 1877 and still forms a hermitage or a pilgrim's rest on the way between Glastonbury or Malmesbury, or the other way round if you're doing the walk in reverse. And that magnificent east window there was originally an anonymous donor, and I think it was put in around 1999. It's a wonderful design, but she later came in later life, well into her late 90s, she came forward and said her name was Enid German and she wanted to give something back to the town. Lovely. So this road here is Barton Orchard, and it formed part of an ancient pack horse way from Barton Farm, where we're going to next, and the little village of Winsley and also the city of Bath. There were weavers' dwellings with top floor workshops, and between number 7 and 9 stood a communal washhouse fed by the Ladywell spring which we saw earlier in the video. Now these roads make me nervous, especially ones which don't have traffic lights telling you if your train's coming. Just to let you know, it's on the heart of the Wessex line, so it actually goes on down towards Weymouth, towards the left. Before that, of course, it goes to Trowbridge and Westbury, and on the right it takes you to the city of Bath. So we're now in Barton Farm Country Park. And before we have a look at the barn, I'm just going to grab a sandwich and a cup of coffee, because it's now lunchtime, and we'll have a look at the barn, and then we'll continue our wander along the Kennett and Avon Canal. So here we are in the park, Barton Farm Park. I've got myself a coffee, I've got sandwiches with me, but there's a place down in by the tithe barn, so we'll go and have a look at that shortly, where you can get coffee. In fact, it's locally roasted Wiltshire coffee, and I can say it's really, really good coffee here, so that's a big thumbs up. I think it's called the Granary. There's also a nearby antique shop as well, which is also well worth looking at. Really enjoying my day here, Bradford on Avon. It's great coming on the train. I'm going to worry about parking, and just a word of warning, Bradford on Avon is really difficult in terms of traffic because lots of roads converge. So roads coming from the north, people wanting to go into south to Southampton, it kind of all gets clogged up in the town centre. So if you can come by train, you'll save yourself a lot of headache. It's a regular service coming from the Bath direction and also coming up from Westbury as well. Pretty frequent service there, and the station is right in the town centre too. So what we'll do now is we'll go and have a look at this tithe barn. So this is the magnificent tithe barn here at Bradford upon Avon. It was built in the 14th century to an exceptionally high standard, and it's a remarkable survivor, though of course it has been restored over the years. Tithe barn, well, tithe as in taxes, and that was the reason this was built. It was built here in this important farm area because people would bring their goods in lieu of paying their taxes to the local authorities and the local parishes. In fact, a lot of it actually went for the upkeep of the churches in this area. So now I'm going to move away from the tithe barn and concentrate what's behind this wall. In fact, what's behind this wall is the towpath of the Kennett and Avon Canal. And so the next sequence of the video will be looking at the basin here at Bradford on Avon. Forgot where we were for a minute. And see what if we can at the comings and goings on the canal. Of course, it is November, so it'll probably be fairly quiet, but we'll see what we can see anyway here. So I'm here at Bradford on Avon Lock and Wharf. Magnificent site here. They repair all of the narrow boats here. That is the direction towards running, and that way is the direction back towards Bath again. It's a hive of activity here. I've just been filming a couple of narrowboats going through the lock, although they were in difficulty, so I didn't actually film them directly when they were in panic mode inside the lock itself. But I got a shot of them actually as the lock gates opened and they come into Bradford Wharf. That was a brilliant sight. Also blessed with lovely lighting here this afternoon, and you've got a bit of the autumnal colours as well. So I hope you enjoy this little sequence I've got for you here at Bradford on Avon Lock. What we're going to do now is head back into the town centre. I'll just show you the bridge there and some of the other amazing bits of Cotswold architecture. Well, architecture that's been created out of Cotswold stone. This is the hen's orchard, and these trees here by side of the towpath of the Kennett and Avon, that's just on the left there, were planted in 2014 by Bradford on Avon Preservation Trust, and it was in celebration of the 50th anniversary of its two founders, Elizabeth Stevenson and Catherine McKean. And it's a community orchard, which means that its fruits belong to the community of Bradford on Avon. So this is Bradford on Avon's magnificent 17th century bridge, and there's something rather unusual on top of it, and we'll just go investigate that further. So that there on the opposite side of the bridge is a lockup, and it was where people that were committing crimes, misbehaving themselves, would be locked up for the night on top of the bridge. And there it is on the right hand side of the screen now. Sorry, the lorry's just gone in front of it. Apologies for the traffic noise. Now, according to my notes, on the top of the lockup is a weather vane, and it gives rise to a local saying, under the fish and over the water, which presumably meant we would meet up at this point. And like a lot of Cotswold towns, because of the water running through it, it powered the mills, and there's many mills in and around Bradford and Avon. Of course, these days they've long gone and since been converted into apartments. Well, I'm starting to run out of daylight now, so I'm going to hand you over to wrap this video up from the town of Bradford on Avon. Well, that's it for this episode of West Country Wanderings from the delightful Wiltshire town of Bradford on Avon that sits on the wonderful Kennett and Avon Canal. We will be back along the Kennett and Avon Canal in the not too distant future. If you haven't already seen them, I've made two other videos in this area. I covered the nearby Avon Cliff Aqueduct, which is within walking distance. In fact, you can catch the train to Avon Cliff, but word of warning, make sure you get in the right carriage and you're at the right door, because it is a very, very narrow platform there and restricted access. But yeah, you can get off there and walk back into Bradford on Avon or vice versa. I've also done a separate video at Dundas Aqueduct too, both magnificent structures carrying the Kennett and Avon Canal over the River Avon. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any photographs yourself you'd like to share of canals up and around the country, particularly in the West Country wandering areas, but anything to do with canals, I'd love to hear from you, and you can share them on my Facebook group, West Country Wanderings. Just put in West Country Wanderings in Facebook and select to go into the group, and I'll come along and invite you in, and then you can share your own photographs and videos on there too. Hope you enjoyed it today. If you did, please consider a like, a subscribe, a share, you know, the usual sort of stuff. Hope to see you on the channel again very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye.